How's it going, everyone? My name is Kase, and today I'm coming to you from my personal garage once again because we just got a bunch of snow here in Colorado, so we're working from home at the beginning of this week. However, in this video, I'm going to be talking about my personal motorcycle. This is my 2006 Harley-Davidson Sportster. I did make a video on this motorcycle a little while back on TFL Now, where I walked through all of the things I've changed about it and kind of how I used it at that time. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 things I like and the 5 things I dislike about this motorcycle after owning it for more than 3 years. Before I get into my list of 5 likes and dislikes with this motorcycle, I want to talk about why I bought it. So, a little bit of background. I was in college when I got this motorcycle and delivering pizzas for Domino's so that I could do it. And I wanted to get something different from the other motorcycles that I was seeing kids my age ride around campus, which were mostly sport bikes. So this was definitely something different. Not a lot of people my age saw the value in a Harley-Davidson. And yeah, it's definitely been a unique motorcycle, and I've gotten a lot of positive comments on it, even from kids my age who like the fact that it was just a little different. The other reason that I picked a Sportster in particular is because this was my commuter, and a soft, comfortable cruiser like this makes for a pretty good commuter bike. I used this as my daily for 2 years. Summer and winter, rain or shine, above or below freezing. This was my grocery getter. It's how I got to work. It's how I got to class. And it really never let me down. So, number 1 on the list of my likes for this motorcycle has to be reliability. Because the only couple issues I've had with this motorcycle is 1, the fork seals went bad, which is pretty typical out here in Colorado. But it took less than a day to rebuild those, well, under a day. So that wasn't really much of an issue. I also had an oil leak at the shifter seal here, which was another easy fix, and this whole primary cover, there was an oil leak there recently. Again, not a difficult fix, not very expensive if you do it yourself, but otherwise it's been great. This motorcycle is carbureted, which at times is not ideal here at altitude. However, again, it's never stopped this bike from going, nor have the oil leaks. I've ridden this well over 10,000 feet up here in the mountains, and the bike definitely runs differently when you get it at high elevations, but it's still got plenty of torque, still works just fine. It's never left me stranded once, and I gotta respect it for that. Number 2 on my list of likes has to be the price. I bought this motorcycle for a little over $3,000, and that's a lot more than you have to spend to get your hands on a Sportster. You should be able to find one for $1,500 or so half of what I spent. But knowing that I was going to use this motorcycle a lot, I wanted to start with a solid bike, one that I knew wouldn't have many issues, wouldn't need a lot of maintenance. And from my experience with both cars and motorcycles, a lot of times spending a little bit more upfront to get a good vehicle can save you not only headache in the long run, but sometimes money as well. Now, the next item on my list of likes is comfort. I've rode this motorcycle a lot, spent a lot of time on it, and the nice thing is that seat is very plush and the riding position is nice. I like where the mid pegs put your feet. For long distances on the highway, the forward pegs that it used to have were pretty nice. But around town, the mid pegs are cool because you can stand up on them, look over the tops of cars and traffic. You can also make yourself a little more visible. And the scrambler bars that this has, that makes it, they're not super short bars, so you're in a pretty comfortable spot when you're sitting on this bike. The 4th item on my list that I love about this motorcycle is the way that it looks. I've got a mid-70s Honda CB750 tank on here with a fuel door that I like, kind of cleans up the lines of it. And then this very inexpensive but nice and I think pretty cool looking seat from SCO Customs. This was about $150. You can specify the width and the length and the angle of upsweep that you want on these seats. And then I went to Target and bought just a couple little belts to throw on the seat. The front one actually helps hold it down. The rear one is just for show. And yeah, I think that actually makes it look a little different, a little cooler. Now, the scrambler style of motorcycle I've always been a big fan of, and these knobby tires, it's a big part of that. I've also got exhaust tape on it. And nothing on this bike has had a whole lot of time or money put into it. I mean, you can see the fitment of the tank in the seat. It's not perfect. This is a rattle can job on the fuel tanks, so yeah, nothing too fancy, but yeah, it works just fine. Now, the last thing that I really like about this motorcycle is the way that it sounds. My dad always had V-twins, and I grew up with that noise from motorcycles. My first bike was a CB750 with an inline 4, and so I wanted to do something different. So let's take a listen. It's pretty cold here in my garage. This bike, like I mentioned, is carbureted, and I haven't started it up in a week. So it's not going to be happy when I first crank it up. Choke is on. Get a little fuel into the carb. Let's see how she does. That's enough of that before my neighbors call the cops. Now, it might seem counterintuitive, but the first thing that I dislike about this motorcycle also has to do with the way that it sounds, mainly that it's just too loud. I like the sound, but not the volume, if that makes sense. A big part of the reason, actually the main reason I don't daily this motorcycle anymore, is because I have neighbors now. And I don't want to be that guy starting up his straight pipe Harley right first thing in the morning on the way to work. So eventually I am going to get a different pipe for this. I want to do a pipe that fits the scrambler style, one that runs kind of up along the side of the bike, but there's not tons of companies that make those kinds of pipes for these. I could make my own, and realistically, I'm probably just going to go with a pipe that I like from Kinetic Motorcycles. That way I'll be able to get one with a decent muffler, but that's about $1,000 exhaust. There are cheaper ones out there, but Kinetic has the style that I like. So yeah, it's going to be a little while before I drop that kind of money on an exhaust. And the second item that I dislike with this motorcycle is the weight. It weighs well over 500 pounds. I think from the factory they weigh about 560 pounds. I haven't put this bike on the scale since I did all these modifications to it, but I'm sure it's not much lighter than that. And the weight of this bike causes some other issues, which is my next dislike. It's not particularly high performance. Now, for a road-going motorcycle, that's not a huge issue because realistically, I don't want to push this bike to its limits on the street. Just too many unknown variables, especially here in Colorado. Our roads are not very well maintained. The weather does a number on them. You could come around any corner and just find gravel or ice in the shades. So yeah, this wasn't ever a motorcycle that I was really going to take to the track or take on any serious trails. And to be fair, Sportsters can technically do that. There's people that stunt on these bikes, there's people that track ride them, there's people that take them on serious off-road trails, but the second you get this out on the dirt, start kicking out the back end, yeah, you can tell that you're fighting an uphill battle trying to make this a really high-performance motorcycle. It's not the ideal bike for it. It's just super heavy, so those are the main two things that I dislike about it in terms of performance. Now, the fourth thing that I dislike about Sportsters is that it's hard to find the kinds of parts for these bikes that I want. This handlebar from Biltwell, this was a lucky find. These Burley brand shocks, they fit all right. You know, there's ways to get the parts that I was looking for, but a lot of what you find online for these motorcycles are kind of like Orange County choppers, early 2000s, super bright chrome, not very rugged looking stuff, and it just did not fit the style that I was going for. The final thing that I dislike about this motorcycle is the reputation that you get for riding a Harley-Davidson. Even though it's really not that bad of a bike, there's a lot of people out there that will hate it just on that name alone. And you know what? That's honestly fine. That probably helps keep these prices down. And for what I've used this motorcycle for, it's been perfect. It's been dead reliable, fun to ride, and I've got no complaints. I don't think I'll ever replace it or hopefully sell it. I like it a lot. Anyways, be sure to go back to tflbike.com for more news, views, and real-world reviews, and we'll see you in the next one.